Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is it. This is the big one. Manchester United facing Burnley. Joe Smith is here, as always. Yeah. Bro.
Yeah.
Normally, right, a game against Burnley, I'd be a little bit tongue-in-cheek when I say this is the big one. But it is.
6-pointer.
Because we need to win.
It's a relegation.
We need some points. It is, isn't it? We are in all sorts of trouble at the minute. Yeah. 4 defeats out of our first 6 games, I think is it. 3 defeats on the spin. Not great, is it, at the minute?
It's awful. Like, I don't even know what to say, really. I think.
Are you not angry, just disappointed?
No, I'm angry and disappointed.
Oh, right, both. I'm both angry. Barrels.
Yeah, I'm disappointed because United are losing every week and, you know, certain parts of the season are already over.
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed. And I'm angry because it's the same old story. We're seeing the same things that we've seen for nearly 10 years. We've seen the same thing that we saw under Solskjaer, under Jose, under Van Gaal, under Moyes. Like, we've seen it all before. Yeah. And I can't believe we're seeing this again where the players have got 10 minutes of effort in them and after that they just go to crap. Yeah. Like, that can't be a thing. We can't keep having this. They look like they feel sorry for themselves. They look like they're all a bit annoyed and fed up with things. But it's the first 5 games, the first 6 games of the season. You can't give up and phone it in already.
No.
Surely you value your own career too highly to waste another year. Some of these players, you think of, like, I know Luke Shaw didn't play against Bayern, so I don't mean his performance. I just mean you look at his career as a whole. How many of the years he's been at Manchester United have been write-offs? What's he been here? 8 years?
Yeah.
What, 5 of them have just been utterly abysmal? Like that. So your career is, you're getting towards 30 now, and we're gonna have another season that's just written off by October.
Yeah,
that can't be allowed to happen.
No.
Like, this is a man who could have scored the winner in the Euros final, and is instead drifting towards a career that is littered with sort of low-end trophies and nothing more.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, again, it doesn't go just for him. He wasn't even playing, but I just mean some of these players now have had underwhelming careers because of their willingness to just sack seasons off for Manchester United, and I can't be.
It must be like you mentioned Luke Shaw. Then I think if you're Luke Shaw and you're Marcus Rashford and you go away with the England camp and you see John Stones and you see, I know he's our player now, but even Mason Mount,
Jordan
Henderson, you see these players and you think, are these players necessarily much better than me? And yet they've won everything.
I know.
Like, they've won Champions Leagues, they've won leagues, they've won, FA Cups, they've won trebles, they've done a lot. And it's like you've won 1 trophy in 6 years, and it's, no disrespect, I love the Carabao Cup, but it's probably the least important trophy you can win and still win an important trophy.
Yeah.
Like, it's 1 step above the Charity Shield. So it must frustrate. They must get a little twinge of regret and embarrassment about it. You'd think so anyway. Yeah, that doesn't seem to translate on the pitch. It just seems like collectively United are just willing, like you say, to just go, after 20 minutes in games, go, never mind, we gave it a go. And almost in the season, by, every other season, it feels like by October, November, we're going, let's look ahead to the next season. Let's look to the next manager after this one.
Yeah, the next manager will win something. The next player will win something. The next season will win something. Yeah. It's just, we're just pushing the thing down the line here, and it's just not getting any better.
One player who's come under scrutiny has been Andre Onana. He was getting pelters a little bit after the Brighton game anyway, and then the Munich game just added to that. He owned his mistake for Leroy Sané's goal. He came out afterwards, he asked to do the post-match interview, and he said, look, the defeat is on me. I think he's half right. I think his goal, the goal we conceded, was very costly, but I don't think that the game was done then. I think that there was still enough football to get some out of that game, and I think also at least 8 of his teammates faxed it in as well, so it's not just on him. What do you make of Andre Onana and the start he's having?
I feel bad for him because I want him to succeed at United, and we don't have enough of a sample size to say that he will or won't be a success. So we're still in that period of learning about him. I do feel like probably the narrative that had built around him before the Bayern game may have gone some way towards his lack of confidence, the fact that we've seen it with David De Gea, and since the sort of World Cup in 2018, where I think he lost a lot of confidence, basically sort of spoiling his international career with that tournament.
Yeah.
And I think we never saw the same David De Gea again, and that is a confidence thing. And for a long time after that, as a United fan, of course, and because you want him to succeed, you stick by him, you say, despite what we're seeing, there's still a player there. And then eventually, year after year after year, you have to go, actually, we're probably never going to get that 2015 David De Gea back.
Yeah.
But we're not at that point with Onana. So I'm at the point where I'm defending him against people who are saying he's shit, all he can do is kick it out, he can't save it. I want him to succeed, and I still do. But I just feel like you get these narratives building around players, and they almost, because they're a human being with a brain and confidence and fears and insecurities, what can happen is players sort of fall into this track that's been built for them, and they almost can't help but go down this road. And I don't want that to happen with Onana. We've seen it happen with players before. We've seen it sort of happen with Harry Maguire. People forget he had 2 very good seasons at United, and then all of a sudden people decided actually he can't play in a high line, and he couldn't, and his weaknesses were exposed. But then now he's a worse player than he's ever been, partly because of this insane narrative and pressure that's been put on him. Like, I don't want to see that for Onana. I think there's a very good player in there. He offers a lot of things that we didn't have before, a modern style of play. And if these clangers and these things, like, you know, semi-professional goalkeepers would be embarrassed with that yesterday. Yeah. That's not the hallmark of how good he is. He doesn't let that in every time. That's a thing that happens with confidence or a lack of concentration. And the last thing I would want is for this outside narrative to increase his lack of concentration, or decrease his confidence to the point where he almost ends up being this failure because people have said he will be.
Yeah, it does feel like a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I was speaking to my pal Tudor, who's been on the channel. His brother, bizarrely, is an Inter fan. Yeah. And he was saying that, like, he's not like this. This isn't him. He doesn't do this kind of thing. You don't look at him and go, oh, he's got one in him. He's not that guy at Inter. He was fantastic, and obviously helped him get to the Champions League final, and played very well in the Champions League final.
One of their man of the matches in the final. He was one of their best players.
Certainly wasn't anything to do with him why Manchester City won that. So it is worrying, but I still feel he's a very good goalkeeper. I just hope, like you say, this narrative and this pressure and all this scrutiny and this criticism doesn't get into his head, because we need Andre Onana to be as good as he can be. Let's talk about our away form, because when I read these stats, they look like they've been made up. They look like
these stats we were just doing before the show are unbelievable.
That, like, I can't. When you first told me some of them, I thought you've made a mistake there. Yeah. And then when I actually thought about it, I realised you hadn't made a mistake. And you're right, because my memory, I can't remember the last time we did well away from home against the top team. So talk us through some of the stats there that you've got.
So the current away form is we've won 3 of our last 13 away games in all competitions.
Abysmal.
And if you want to sort of just push that out slightly to games away from Old Trafford, and we include obviously then the FA Cup final, that's 3 wins in the last 14 games in all competitions, which I know City weren't at home either, but this thing of being unable to win games away from home is, I would include the FA Cup final in that.
If you did that though, would you what about the semi-final? Would you class that as a draw because it was penalties, or what, are you changing it because of that?
No, well, I think that would be a draw. Yeah, I don't think. I don't know actually how that's counted in terms of like whether it's a win or a loss.
I'm not trying. I get your point. However, but I'm saying if you count in Wembley games, are we going to count the Carabao Cup and the semi-final? And
we don't go back as far as.
Oh right, sorry, no, we don't go that far back. Right,
yeah.
Okay. Fine.
So last 13. Let's just keep it to the league. We've won 3 of our last 13 games.
Awful. And also, let's not forget, of those 10 that we haven't won, how many of them have we lost?
Yeah, quite a few, and in embarrassing fashion. Now here's where it starts getting a bit freaky. The last away win at all was against Bournemouth on the 20th of May last season.
Okay, that's not the end of the world. It's not great. But
these 2 here or this one here is absolutely astonishing. The last time we beat a top 6 side away from home was 2 years ago. It was 1 year and 11 months ago. It was the 30th of October 2021. The other astonishing part of that is Manchester United's record-breaking and still record-holding 29-game away-from-home unbeaten record under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So we didn't lose a game away from home for 29 games in a row. Never been done before. That record ended 2 weeks before we beat Tottenham. Right? We lost 4-2 to Leicester. We then we beat Tottenham 2 weeks later. Since then, we have not beaten a top 6 side away from home. So essentially, That undefeated record ended 2 years ago, and we've been shocking away from home ever since. Like, we haven't recovered from losing that record.
No.
Like, since then, it's been horrendous. Like, United haven't been a top 6 side away from home in 2 years, Jay. How is that happening? I know we can't, get rid of that record by beating Burnley. They're not a top 6 side. But when you just look at how poor we've been through the last 13 games, last win away from home was 6 months ago. We haven't been a top 6 side in 2 years. Like, what is going on?
I think some of it, to me, is there's a difference between loving winning and hating losing.
Yeah.
I think some players can live with losing too easily. The great players, and I mean like the top elite players, hated losing so much it drove them mad, and it drove them on, and they would do anything they could. You look at the players that you associate with that will to win: Roy Keane, Wayne Rooney, Robbo, going even further back. Like, they hate losing. Now, you might argue, Cristiano Ronaldo's in that bracket, and he's been here since that record, but I don't think you can blame him for us not winning football matches, because he played his part in a lot of those games before it all went wrong, of course. Yeah. But I feel like there is an almost acceptance in this squad of, we lose, it's not the end of the world. Well, everyone loses at the Etihad. Yeah. Everyone loses at Anfield. Everyone loses at the Allianz. Everyone loses at the Emirates. Everyone loses wherever. It's just like there seems to be this just acceptance of mediocrity and acceptance of losing, and whether that's 20 minutes into a game, it's we've tried now and the wheels have come off, never mind. Or whether that's 3 months into a season when things start going wrong, there's always next season. What? Why are you doing that? And then it's the same when we're going away from home. If things don't go our way, it's like, we've lost, never mind, we'll go again. I'm sick of hearing that. That used to mean something. When you used to get them. So I remember when Twitter was first a thing, and you'd lose a match. I remember it was United were winning titles and challenging for titles when Twitter was first became sort of a mad thing. You'd lose a match, and then you'd say, like, right, forget that, forget the defeat at home to Liverpool, we've got Fulham away next, that's the important one. Or forget the loss to Chelsea, we've got City next, that's the one. And that meant something, because you think, that is the mentality of this club. Right, we've lost, we forget about that, we move on. Now it's just become completely meaningless, and it's like, we've lost, don't worry, next game. We've heard all this so many times now, you've just rendered it utterly inconsequential.
Did you see that Wayne Rooney quote talking about after the game? I can't remember the game that we lost, but United lost the game. And him and Carrick came into Carrington the next day, and they were still fuming, obviously pissed off at losing. They've come from this era of winning Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues all the time. They get into the dressing room, or they get into the changing room at Carrington, and it was Pogba and Lingard in name, wasn't it? Who have got music on, they're dancing, obviously a really upbeat kind of, excited kind of vibe. And he said he threw the speaker out the dressing room and was like, you don't do that after a loss. You should be coming into training upset, distraught, fuming, ready to make amends. Determined to make amends for what you've done. Not, we lost last night, but let's have a bit of a sing and dance. And I think that Pogba and Lingard obviously aren't there, but it's this idea now that, like you said, losing isn't a problem. Everyone loses. We're allowed to finish top 4. And I think, and again, I hate to bring everything back to the Glazers, because I think the players and the manager and people need to take a bit of blame, but when you look at the overall pressure of the club as a whole, it isn't to win the Premier League and win the Champions League. It's to flounder for a third of a season, do well for a third of a season, and maybe a couple of upsets here and there, and scrape top 4, and we'll see you next year. You can finish top 4 and lose 12, 13, 14 Premier League games, certainly 10, and still finish top 4. And it looks like the players are happy with that, because the owners are happy with that. Like, the club as a whole, there is no drive and no necessity to win game after game after game anymore. And, unfortunately, I guess you can bring in players like Varane and Casemiro, but we don't have that sort of group of players that are used to winning with Man United like we did with Carrick and Rooney and players like that. They're gone. No one has won big things with Man United anymore who's still here. So I don't know how we're going to get it back.
No, I agree. It's sad, because you keep continued success by having a sort of a thread of players or coaches who know how to win, who are used to winning, and they maintain a standard. So for 27 years you had Fergie, who was ever present, and the players that he brought in and the players that he would then get rid of and bring in new players, they'd all have that sort of, they'd have players around him that were winners. So when he first came in, you already had like Brian Robson there, and then he brought in other players like the likes of Paul Ince and Roy Keane and Cantona came in, and then they knew the United way. They knew about winning, and then eventually when you bring in the class of '92, they're ingrained with how United should be. Obviously, you had Giggs throughout the entire Ferguson era as well. So you all have all that. Then when Fergie retired, you've still got Rio, you've got Vidic, you've got Evra, you've got Carrick, you've got Rooney. But then you start losing these players, and you don't replace them with like for like. It's players that are coming in who can kind of live with it if things aren't going right. It's all right. Maybe it's, you might argue this is a new era of football and players are a bit like that more than they used to be, but there's no one there who's been there through the successful years now who's still there. I don't think. I think
Jones and De Gea were the last two.
Jones and De Gea were the last ones to win a title. Of the coaching staff, they're all new. So Eric Ten Hag and his lads and even like Michael Carrick, whoever, isn't there anymore. So it's just a complete new set of people involved in the club, and like you're saying, you've got these overlords who don't care about anything other than making a few quid. Sorry, producer Alexis just put out Johnny Evans has come back, so he's the only one who's from that era. And I do love Johnny Evans, but he's not the Johnny Evans that we had in 2007, is it? Let's have it right, or 2009, I should say. Right, let's talk about our predicted 11s. With all that being said, give us your predicted. Oh no, we're going mine first.
Yeah,
okay. So I've gone with the exact same team that faced Bayern Munich, except Christian Eriksen has been dropped for Hannibal Mejbri. Eriksen looked dead on his feet.
Eriksen did look dead on his feet, but I think everyone could see that. I've got some other questions for you.
Go on.
Pellistri?
Yes.
Did he do enough for you to keep his place?
I think the reason I feel a bit sorry for Pellistri, he's barely started for Manchester United and he's thrown in at the Allianz Arena, and because he didn't do that well, it's right. That's actually done now. Give him another chance.
Okay.
Give him another one. And this is my predicted. This is not my preferred. I think the manager might give him another shot. So look, one of the most difficult grounds to go to in world football.
Turf Moor?
Yeah, it didn't happen for you, but Turf Moor, Burnley, you've had 70 minutes or whatever you had playing for Manchester United, which is a rarity for him. Do what you can do against Burnley, and I think he'll cause Burnley problems, and I think he'll find it a lot easier against Burnley than against Bayern Munich.
Also, Hannibal, obviously, I know he had a decent cameo against Brighton, got the goal, but very inexperienced player to be bringing in at a time when we need, steadying down and a bit of composure. Is that a risk? Obviously, it's a risk, but do you think that's one that'll pay off?
I think it is a risk, and I think it will pay off. I think it's more of a risk to put Scott McTominay in that team the way he's been playing. Yeah. Because he's been woeful for his last two appearances. He was awful against Brighton, and he was non-existent against Bayern Munich. Yeah. And we've all seen the clip and the memes. Don't need to go into it. And listen, I've always said about Scott McTominay, he's one of those players that regardless of whether you think he's got the quality that you need, he'll give you his all. Yeah. I don't even think that anymore. No. I think he's half checked out.
I do. I think he wanted to leave in the summer.
Don't want to be here. I think he's annoyed the fact that Fred got his move, Amrabat's come in, Mount's come in. I know they're not the same position as him, but he's well down the pecking order. Yeah. And he's just like, I'm reaching the peak of my career, and I'm like 5th choice midfielder for United. The only reason he's getting in is because Mount and Amrabat are injured. Yeah. I think if they were fit, I don't even think he'd be starting for us. So I just don't think he wants to be here, and I think it's reflecting in his performances, because the least you expect from any Manchester United player is effort, even if they've not got the quality that you want. Like years ago, we used to have Alan Smith, and he was playing in a great United team, and he got the odd goal and that, but you just look at him and you go, he's probably not quite good enough. No. But he gave his all, so you can respect that. There was a time when Darren Fletcher, people when he first came into the team didn't think he was good enough, and he forced the issue, and he was good enough in the end, but he always gave his all. Yeah. And I look at Scott now and I just feel like he's not giving his all. I don't see the energy, the effort there. No. And I don't think, I'd rather have an erratic Hannibal than a half-hearted Scott. Yeah, I really would. That's my thinking, and I think the manager will think the same. Let's talk about your team then.
Yeah, you've gone a slightly different way. So my team, if we can get it up, obviously it's the same. I've took a bit of a chance with Varane.
Yeah, can I just add the caveat then as well? Yeah. I've not put Varane because I don't think he'll be fit.
Yeah, and if he's not fit, I think it'll be the same as you said. If he's not fit, that back four picks itself, which is unfortunate because I don't think Martinez is fully fit. I don't think Lindelof's fully fit, and Reguilon and Dalot were playing 2 games a week when they weren't even first choice a couple of weeks ago. Isn't a good sign. But I've gone the other way. put as many midfielders on as we possibly can. So almost like we did against Brighton, and I don't think Burnley are obviously anywhere near as good as Brighton, but I think they like to press hard, they like to hold the ball like Brighton do. Not the same team, but if you're looking at sort of similar types of ways to try and control a game, I think they do a similar thing. And I thought for the first 20 minutes against Brighton, as we keep saying, United actually looked quite good, and maybe that diamond with McTominay, Casemiro, Eriksen and Fernandes, who have got on the right, but obviously we're drifting centrally when we're out of possession. I just think just put the sandbags in front of the front door. Like, I don't think we've got any other option here. We can't fight the water off. We've just got to hope that that midfield can hold. So I'm just sticking as many players as we can in there, and I'd feel bad on Hannibal for having to do it. So I've not put him in, but Rashford, Højlund and Fernandes, and he can create from the right hand side. It's not his favourite position, but I feel like we ain't got any other choice. No one's fit. The midfielders we do have that are fit, I don't think any three of them by themselves work. So let's just play four of them.
I get it. I do. My worry is Eriksen and McTominay. I don't know, man. I feel like the fight has gone out of him. I don't even know if Eriksen has got that kind of fight in him anyway. And McTominay, like I've already mentioned. So if he does go with that, I hope you're right. And I hope Bruno Fernandes can drop in when he needs to. And I hope Casemiro gets the help that he needs as well. I do worry. I do feel like in terms of, I know it's such a basic argument, like just the fight in midfield, but it's true. You need that.
We see this every other season when they've given up and a manager's on the way out. You see it. They stop fighting, they stop running, they stop trying. His arms up in the air, throwing 20 good minutes, and then it's absolutely diabolical after that. Nothing looks cohesive. They're not trying for each other. They're not trying for themselves. We're seeing it, and I'm not falling for it again. I'm not having it.
Amazing how many players that Ten Hag inherited aren't good enough.
Yeah.
Like, it's shocking.
I know.
Because when you look at the players that we've got that you think, yeah, they can do a job for Manchester United, they're good enough, then you go, all right, Casemiro he brought in, Martinez he brought in, Fernandes already inherited him, I think he can, Rashford inherited him, Højlund he brought in. There's question marks about Eriksen. I know he brought Eriksen in, but I think already the words come off. But then you look at likes of, McTominay, is he good enough?
The right back's good enough.
The right back's good enough. Varane's just injured all the time.
Yeah.
Like, there's just...
We haven't got a right winger.
Martial's always injured. It's like half the team, well, nearly all the team inherited. There's only like 3 or 4 players you go, yeah, I can actually rely on them.
Yeah.
Like,
it's bad, isn't it?
It's amazing that to me for a club like Manchester United, because even when someone like, I don't know, when Ollie took over as caretaker, we had a decent team. You go, okay, there's a team here that's got quite a lot of good players in it, and it feels like, it just feels like under Ralph Rangnick, it wasn't just the down tools, it was a lot of them down tools and weren't good enough.
And then left. Yeah.
Talk about Burnley then, because they're managed by former Manchester City captain Vincent Kompany, so it's going to be absolutely wonderful if they get a result. They've got 1 point from the opening 4 games, so you literally couldn't pick a better team to play. Although,
other than United, but we can't play ourselves. I think that's one of the rules, isn't it? You're not allowed to play yourself.
Yeah, if we played ourselves, we'd still lose.
Both teams would lose.
Yeah,
somehow. -1.
Yeah.
What is that? How have they both
somehow
lost?
we conspire to not even a draw. They'd both lose. Yeah, it would be one of those. The worrying thing is though, they are in form, Burnley, because they lost the first 3 games and then they won. They drew the last one against Forest.
Well, they've got a better form record than us. They're doing what I thought they would do, which is it's often the case that the team that plays the best football in the Championship struggles the most in the Premier League, because it's you can pass it around, have 1,000 passes a game in the Championship. You try and do that against top teams in the Premier League. United are trying to do it and we can't do it.
Yeah.
So a team from the Championship are really going to struggle at doing that. Yeah. Like, it's hard to hold pressure, hold possession in the Premier League when you've got a Championship team. They're really struggling. But don't let that fool you. If we can just jump straight to predictions, because I've got nothing else to say about Burnley except I cannot bear the fact that I think we're going to lose this game, and it's very rare that I predict a loss. Yeah, I honestly think it's gonna. We're on the track we're going to have to change something here, because we're on the same track that we've been on under Van Gaal, under Jose, under Solskjaer, under Rangnick. That I think they look like they can't be arsed with them anymore. Honestly, I do think that, and someone from the club is going to have to come out and say, That's not happening. We back him, give him a contract. It's like a showing of support.
Is
for
that
Ten Hag.
not? Is the worry there though? It's not like the whole the sort of cliched the poison chalice of the what's it called when the board come out and back you?
Yeah, I get
confidence.
that. The vote of confidence.
Where you hear that and then invariably managers get sacked about a month later. I understand what you mean though.
But just
I think maybe behind closed doors, someone like I don't even know. Someone might need to say, look, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
like he's not. We're sticking with this manager. So you need.
I really hope they do.
You need to either play for him or
you're out.
You're out.
Yeah,
we're not going to get rid of him. He's going to be here. Because I think some of these players as well, I think even if they think, he might be here to end the season, I think some of them will still think, we'll just write this season off.
Yeah. What they did under Rangnick.
Yeah, Rangnick, they knew he was going in the summer.
We lost 7 away games in a row under Rangnick. Like, there's no limit to how many games we can lose.
And I think as well, at Old Trafford, with the crowd are on you, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if you start underperforming, the crowd are going to get on you. It's a lot harder to not show any effort at home. Away, you can get away with a little bit. I know the United away fans are great, but they're not. They're only like 10% of the stadium.
Yeah.
So you can get away with a little bit more. And I just feel like we already feels if we're not careful, we're going to end up like all managers have done, where they're not picking the best players, they're picking the players that can be bothered.
Yeah.
So it's like when Jose used to pick Fellaini all the time because he'd try, and he felt like that Pogba or whoever wouldn't. It's like you already feel like you're in that stage of the season. It's only 5 games in or whatever it is. We want to hear your predictions. Yeah. Get your phone out, film yourself in landscape, 30 seconds, give your score predictions, send it to paddockmatchday@gmail.com. Joe, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can your score prediction.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Have I even said a score? Have I just said we're going to lose?
I don't know. Go on, give us your score prediction.
I think we'll lose 2-1.
2-1?
Yeah. I can't. We're not keeping a clean sheet, are we?
I think we'll draw.
Yeah.
I think we'll draw 1-0.
I'd take that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I
that
think
is
we'll
sickening.
draw
I would take a draw.
And that'll be like we've just drawn at the Bernabeu.
Yeah.
Like,
give me that.
We'll celebrate that like we celebrated all his winner in '99. You know where to find Joe. You know where to find me. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. We'll both be here for the Burnley game. It's a late kickoff on a Saturday, 8 o'clock on a Saturday. We'll be here for the watch along, so make sure you check that out. This has been the Burnley preview. Thanks for watching.